A guy with a leaf blower. Now, just now.
It's okay, we can't hear him.
We can hear it.
Oh my god.
Okay, I guess we're live. All right, so what's up, everyone? This is Infinite Flight developer live stream. Oh, I have to mute my phone. Welcome. So we promised when we started our developer timeline that we would give you guys more info as to what's going on in Infinite Flight. So here I have with me a crew of developers. I've got Laura, and I think only the person, we're using Hangouts, so only the person talking is going to be seen on the screen. So Laura, say hi.
Hi, everybody.
There we go. Philippe.
Hello.
Hey, and Val.
What's up?
So I surprised all of these people with this like 1 hour ago at the most, and said, hey, it's Friday, why don't we do a little developer stream? So here we are. So what we're going to do is just go through a quick list of what's in development. We obviously can't tell you guys everything, but we're going to try to say as much as we can. So let's start out with the work in progress that I shared today on social media, which is the XCub. Laura, can you, we just showed that there is a moving steam gauge on the XCub. So which gauges will we have in this cockpit without saying too much?
I mean, there's in this one, there's not much because there's a GPS underneath. So in terms of animated instruments, I think there's a altitude indicator. There's BS and the airspeed. I think that's all it has in terms of like moving needles.
Cool.
Yeah.
It's super fun to fly.
It is.
What sometimes when you're adding an airplane, new challenges are presented because of other things that are in development. Is there anything that you ran into this time with the XCub that was like that?
Yeah, so I had to kind of rework, tweak a little more the whole behavior with the tail draggers, because the models that we had that were tail draggers were like the latest one we did, I think, was the Spitfire. So it's kind of old, and the behavior, like the landing qualities, were tough to get a hold of. So now I've made some tweaks in the behavior so that when you pull the elevator, you stick back, it kind of like puts the tail wheel down on the floor, on the ground, and you get a lot of the grip from the tail wheel. And I've also added the prop wash on the rudder and the elevator. So it's something that we had back in the day, but that wasn't working so well, so it was disabled. So I tried to tweak that a little bit, and there's also a little bit more of the now that we have the proper kind of math for the side force of the wind, that makes a lot of difference. And the last thing that I added is the shadowing of the wing that's behind the fuselage. So if you have the fuselage like this and the wing like this, and the wind's coming from this side is shadowed, right? So you're going to have a less lift on that wing. So if you don't put your stick into the wind, your wing that's upwind is going to go up before the other one, because the one that's downwind is shadowed, has less air coming to it. So there's still some tweaks to do, but yeah, it feels a little more natural and very similar to the situations that you encounter in a tail dragger if you don't pay attention and put your stick into the wind.
Awesome. Do you have any advice for new GA pilots that might be taking this thing for a spin soon, that usually maybe fly the bigger airplanes?
What I need to do, I mean, we'll have a tutorial, but what I would suggest is watching videos of Flight Chops. He's done videos on the tail dragger training. So a lot of those these kind of little tips and tricks for flying tail draggers will be scattered on those videos. So watching those, especially the ones with, I think he did last year, the training he did with the three cup crafters. I think it was the FX3, the Carbon Cub, and the XCub. So those sets of videos plus the one that he did in the backcountry training, I think it was an FX3. But those videos kind of give you an idea of how to fly a tail draggers and kind of the pitfalls and things to be careful with.
Nice. Awesome. Anything else you want to anything else you want to add about that?
Just I think people will have some fun with this plane. It's more of a stick and rudder experience compared to the regular planes that we've had so far. And we're kind of looking forward to reviving the GA crowd in Infinite Flight, so opening small airports. It's not for everybody. I know some people will not like flying this plane and will stick to the airliners, but there's a little niche that people we think will fill with that type of plane.
Sweet. Great. Can we've already said on social media in the comments that you'll be able to, if you're coming to Flight Sim Expo. By the way, speaking of Flight Sim Expo, here's a little news. We'll be there first week of June. That's happening. You go to flightsimexpo.com. It's in Orlando, Florida. We're going to be hosting a meetup Saturday, June 8th at, I believe, 8 p.m. That's after the Flight Sim Expo social in the atrium of the hotel. It's the Renaissance Orlando at SeaWorld. And you can come and have a drink and hang out with us. Our team that will be there will have 6 crew members there, and that'll be a good time. You also be able to try out the XCub if you stop by our booth. It will be, unless we have some unknown failures, the XCub will be on the iPads at our booth. So I think unless someone has something to add, that's it for that airplane. A350 is also in development. That's a great big Airbus, in case anybody is unaware. And what can we say about that? So far, we've shared some works in progress, including some high poly 3D stuff of the cockpit, of the exterior, and just the other day we showed you the carbon livery for that. So that's one of the many liveries that will be available. We're developing the 900 variant, right, Laura?
Yes.
And why don't you talk to us about that airplane? We're not into any flight testing or anything yet. I don't know how much we can actually say other than what we've already showed, but
I mean, like the last model that you share, where we can see like the model is pretty advanced, is usually close to the point where I can start test flying the plane.
Okay.
I could start test flying it before, based on another model, but it's best to have the actual model itself, because when I move waypoints around, it's best if it's exactly where they should be in the model. When I put the engines and the fuel tanks and all this, it's just the behavior is way different if it's not based on the same model. So we're going to start that soon.
Okay. Sweet. And then can we share a hopeful ETA or anything? I think the answer is no to that. Philippe's probably shaking his head. No.
Probably not. No,
No.
I mean, like, it's going to come at some point.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine. A lot of questions about if we can skip back to the XCub for just a second, and everybody, by the way, we're going to keep this pretty short. So just wanted to show up on a Friday and have a little fun here. But a lot of people asking about turn indicator on the XCub. Will we have one of those?
I don't think there's one.
In addition to the those steam gauges?
I would have to look at the panel on the. I think there's no. I don't think it has it.
I don't think so. Not so far, anyway. But that could be iterated upon, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Speaking as a non-developer. Cool. Oh, I don't even know the answer to this, so just one of you can stop me. my tracks. Do we have any new sounds coming for the XCub? If you can't answer that, just say no.
No, there's no new sounds because the engine is the same as a 172, which is the only difference is a variable pitch prop, which the 172s don't have. I mean, the latest SPs don't have that, so that's the only difference. So we're going to reuse the same sound as the 172.
Okay, that makes sense. And we have 172 sounds on the 172 right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, cool. Okay, next, we talked about the XCub, we talked about the A350. Philippe, do you want to share some of the stuff that you've been working on at whatever capacity you want?
What are we at now? The clouds, I think.
Sure. Let's talk about clouds. Yeah. Let's get into it.
Well, since I've been forced into talking about clouds, I'll talk about clouds. Well, clouds. This was one of the most requested feature, along with buildings and working instruments and pretty much everything that we don't have, night lights. But clouds is something that we definitely wanted to add because it really add a sense of scale, and also it's so much better to just fly with better looking weather. So we've been looking at it for a long time now. Actually, it's not new. We tried many different things to make it work, but all I can say is that we made good progress and that we're still working on it. There's still some technical challenges that we are facing right now, but it's starting to look like we were basically seeing the end of the tunnel, and hopefully we'll have something to show in a reasonable amount of time. I'm measuring my words.
I know you are.
Because there's always like it's so there's so many technical details hoops that we had to jump through. Doing clouds on mobile at the scale that we do and that we do things at Infin Flight is pretty hard. We're not trying to add just a few clouds around the aircraft. We're trying to have covers, like a full cover of clouds, and that's something that is hard to do, especially when you want to make it look good and realistic, because you have your clouds need to also react properly with the lighting and with the atmosphere, like all the stuff, and that's not something that's easy to do on mobile, but we're making good progress, and hopefully in the not immediate future but in a near-ish future we'll be able to show some stuff. One thing to note is that the first iteration won't be full cloud, all type of clouds. We'll start with probably cirrus clouds, and then we'll work our way to more complex type of clouds if we can, because this is something that even on PC, any cumulus type clouds are really hard to do at big scale. So this is something that we might not have at first, but it will definitely be a first start, a good start to have cirrus clouds.
Awesome. You have no idea how hard it is to pry cloud information out of Philippe for me. So thanks, Philippe.
Well, because it's not ready, and there's still many issues that can arise.
Yeah.
I'm always the one saying let's share. Maybe Misha wants to more than I do.
I mean, to give you, last meeting, like last week, we were all depressed because the many things that the big thing that we were working on to make it work, like we hit a roadblock, and it took 4 hours of meeting to figure it out and to figure out how to work around that problem. So this is fairly new, that we're pretty optimistic on if we're going to be able to do it.
Cool, awesome. And the If I know it's can be a big financial commitment and it's difficult to do, but if you're on the fence about coming to an event, often we have like our real world events, like Flight Sim Expo. We're going to be at Oshkosh. Another little news bit. We'll be at Oshkosh this year all week exhibiting in Epic Exhibit Hangar C. And we'll be doing some meetups around the grounds. We can watch the fireworks together and things like that. These events are the best places to try out new stuff. So who knows what we'll have on the iPads when you arrive at the booth. If there's some big cloud breakthroughs, maybe we'll have some clouds. Who knows? Now, what else do we have? I need to scroll up here. Val, can you tell us, Val's been kind of working away very hard on a feature that is used a ton, but is, I think, Val, you kind of see it as maybe not a super exciting piece of what we have in the sim, but it's super important. So what have you been working on?
I've been working on a new map. So the current map we have is has reached its maximum capacity, basically. We cannot add anything more to it without it slowing down everything else. We just have a certain budget of how much time we can, how much rendering time we can spend on elements of the UI. So the map right now is just too slow. So I'm working on a new map that will allow us to add way more stuff to it. Draw more stuff, like seeing the coastlines with more details, being able to see what country you're in, even states. We'll be able to add much more to the map with global in mind, because originally the old map was just designed for the old Infinite Flight, which was limited to small regions. So that was easier because you could just load the whole region in memory and just draw it on a small map, and that was it. But with global, we had to expand this old map to be able to render the whole planet, and that adds a lot of issues with performance. So the current map that is in the app is just let's say that stuff that's put together, but that should be together basically, and it's just too slow. So the new map will look like the old map, so it won't make much of the difference at first when it gets out. But it will allow us to just do much more, help you more during your flight, show more information about what's around you, your destination, having points of interest. For example, being able to see the cities, for example, the shape of the city, for example, or the main highways, because real pilots use points of interest to navigate sometimes. So those things, being able to show them on the map would make it much more useful for the users. So that's why we're just working on that new map to add that stuff. Yeah.
Awesome. How's it going?
It's doing good. Well, basically, we have a lot of different ways of doing the map. We have the solo map. We have the live map. The live map will show other aircraft. We have the ATC map, which adds more features for vectoring, stuff like that. So I'm taking the old map and just putting that stuff back into the new map to add all those features back. So that's where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wicked. Thanks, Val. Okay. Back to Philippe. Actually, first, a lot of questions being asked about. No, we'll let Philippe go. So, Philippe, you're going to talk to us about scenery.
Yes. So scenery, we know that big something that people have been asking for a long time is for South America in HD, or what we call the 15-meter resolution. So I'm currently processing the data. It's been a long journey for multiple reasons. One of those is one of my PC completely crashed, and we had to we had to repurchase a full PC. And yeah, it's being processed. The processing of just to give you a sense of scale, the data that we used for the data set that for the scenery that you currently have was about 2 terabyte, and now it pretty much doubled. Because it's not only South America, we have all of Asia, the entire world now will be in HD. So at various degree, I mean, towards the poles, it's going to be a little bit lower resolution, but it's just because the satellite didn't that data doesn't have better resolution, because there's not really many people up there, so they don't care about those regions. But yeah, it's the entire world. Once we release the data set, which is going to be like double in size, pretty much, it will be the entire world in HD. So any like Southeast Asia or South America, some parts of the north as well, northern Russia. Some parts that we didn't have, that we don't have currently, will be all in HD. So that's for the scenery. It's currently processing processing the entire data sets takes a full week. So of 100, like a machine, like a very expensive machine going at it nonstop. So yeah, that's pretty much where we at. I don't know when it will be released, but we're hopeful for in the next few months.
Cool. So that takes care of the scenery.
Yes.
A lot of other questions about lights, so taxiway lights.
Yes. So I guess that goes with the scenery. There's a few questions. There's questions about buildings. So I'll for the buildings, actually the work that Val is doing currently on the map, there's a lot of work involved with data and importing data that's like vector data about like airports, and vector data about coastlines, like where the coastlines are and stuff like that. And this is the same type of work that is required to import building data, like building footprints, and building, like we'll have footprints and heights and stuff like that. So that work needed to happen before we can start looking at buildings. That's not considering the performance impact that buildings will have, but this is something that we'll deal with later. For taxiway lights, I mean taxi lights, it's kind of the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of it's mostly like getting the data and putting it in a format that allow us to display it fast. We did some work on it. So the technology to display a lot more lights in Infinite Flight for night, for at least all the taxiway lights and all that, the technology is there. We just need the data. We need to test it, and we need to make sure it's fast. But in our schedule, we're probably right now we're focused on clouds. We can't do everything at once. So right now we're focused on clouds, and we have a couple other unannounced things that we're also working on. But I think after clouds, we'll look at the taxiway lights, and probably lights in general. Also lights for the like better lights for the aircraft, tail lights and stuff like that. We'll look at it at the same time. But again, right now we can't do everything at once. We have to focus, otherwise we never get anything done. So first in terms of technology, like getting the whole world in HD, then clouds, then probably improving lights and night flying in general, and buildings buildings after that. So that's the rough roadmap for Infinite Flight in terms of technology.
Awesome. And I want to reiterate something I said on the Jetstream radio interview the other day, which was everything that we're doing in-house, and we don't have other outside developers working on things. X-Plane's going to have a Concorde pretty soon, and the company that's making that has people working full-time to make the Concorde for X-Plane, and has been at it for 2 years, more than 2 years, full-time. So we're doing everything in-house, and it's just like Philippe said, everything takes time. So we try to prioritize based on what people want and what's possible, and then as devices get better, we can add more stuff. So that's all I had on the list. So do any of you have anything to add? Have you seen any other questions that we should address?
I saw a question about the API.
Yeah.
Since this is a dev stream, I think it's it's on subject.
Yeah.
There's one thing that we worked quite a bit recently is to improve. Like we have some good ideas to improve the APIs, and I mean I don't want to get into more details because that would be too long. But this is something that we're looking at, and we definitely want to expand a little bit on that, so people could actually help us with some features. But it's kind of it's a complex subject because the mobile platform are pretty closed platforms, so it's hard. It's not like PC where you can easily have plugins and add-ons. On mobile, it's a little bit harder. But it's something that we're still open, and we're looking at a few things, a few technologies and ideas that we could implement to make this easier. So it's definitely on our radar.
Someone told me in the comments, Dan said my webcam game is dry, so I'm going to try to spice it up a little bit.
There was a question about airways on the map, on the new map.
Oh yeah, go for it.
So there's a problem of the airways. It adds a lot of clutter to the map. So it will definitely be possible because the new map will be much faster. Will be much easier for us to render a lot of points. So it's definitely possible, and it might not be for the first version of the map, but that's something we couldn't add on the old map because there's just too much stuff. I mean, the whole world, all of the airways is just too much. But with the new map, that's definitely something we're going to be able to add in the future.
Yeah, on that subject, people asking about terrain map to get like a better awareness of the environment when you're flying, or also for ATC people. I think this is something that the new map will help bringing back. We had it for ATC, I think, Laura, if I remember, at some point.
Yeah, we used to even have it for solo flights.
For solo flight, yeah.
Yeah, but that was before global because we just had those little areas. But having the terrain for global means to be able to handle the terrain for the whole planet, which we couldn't do with the old map. So the new map works in a way that will allow us to add that feature as well, add it back, and the other types of overlay. You're muted.
Jason, you're muted.
Sorry. Professional. Any other questions you guys want to? It's 2 o'clock. We aimed for 30 minutes, so we're there. Any other questions before we go that you're seeing in the comments?
An AP50 rework? I don't think we need that.
Well, I mean, let's address gear tilt. It's not something that we're ready to talk about yet. That's what else? The 777 rework. It's something that we said we'll do, but we have first the XCub, then we have another GA aircraft like Laura mentioned, then the A350, then we'll have the 777. So it's still a long way out. Again, we can't do everything at once, so we try to we have to focus on only a few things. We're a small team. We really appreciate your patience, and yeah.
Awesome.
What else?
Laura, anything else to add from you?
There was a question about when the CRJ 200 came out, it was for free because it replaced a free plane. So we're not going to announce yet what the XCub pricing structure will be, but since it replaces a plane that used to be free, you can expect something comparable.
Something very comparable to free.
And I said comparable.
Cool. Val, anything else from you?
No, I'm good.
Wicked. Okay, so thanks to our developers. Don't forget, everyone, that we will be at Flight Sim Expo in June in 2 weeks exactly. And you can go to flightsimexpo.com for tickets. That event is likely going to sell out, so you should go over there now if you're thinking about it. Also, in July, go to eaa.org, I think, and check out AirVenture in Oshkosh, Wisconsin. That is obviously the world's biggest aviation event. We're going to be there. Lastly, we'll be at Flight Sim Show 2019, which is in October in Cosford, UK. So we're excited to be back at that for a second year in a row. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us, and we will see you again on our next dev stream. Oh, last thing, go to infiniteflight.com/timeline. This interview will end up on there in addition to on our regular social media. That's where you can go to see even a few posts that don't end up on our social media. You can see on our development timeline, and we're going to try and keep you as updated as possible with everything Infinite Flight. So that's it. See you next time, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.